You are now listening to Femme podcast with Tessa Markle
and Carolina Alvarez.
Femme.
Hi, Femme. Happy, well, it'll be a Friday release today, so happy Friday to our listeners.
Happy season 13.
Season 13. Wow, what an amazing episode we're dropping today for you. I really loved all the avenues it took. I mean, we get into writing, TV pilots, sex cults. You get everything in this episode.
How LA?
Very LA. This episode's very LA, but in the also best way of understanding the industry. So today we had on the show Katherine Geren. She is a actor, producer, writer. She is half indigenous, half Peruana. She is just a mix of everything. And she's also the creator of Elisa's Almost 30 and the writer of The Whistling Trees, which we get into on the show. These two different projects both sound amazing, different in formats and genres, and we just really ourselves learned a lot of the resources and tools she used, and also just like how hard she works is just so inspiring, and also just you see the payback from all the years and work she's put in and the connections she's made, and it's achievable. Like it's hard, but it's achievable. And I think it really speaks to where she is today. And it's very exciting to see and inspiring to us.
Yeah. And I know we've had a lot of filmmakers on that, you know, they created their own work, whether they funded it themselves or not, but like they got it out there like themselves. And now we're kind of seeing, you know, she's currently pitching and she's had a lot of success with like, she had great coverage from like her first draft of something, which is like unheard of. And then that got her in the door. And then she attached some names to her project and that got her in other doors, and just, you know, really how to actually market your project and all the right ways, the right steps to take, you know, that we hear about in classes and books and stuff, but like we don't really get to hear a lot of people's experiences with that are successful. So today you finally do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Tessa. Like we get like, oh, like, you know, attach a star to your short, like, or your film and your pitch and all that. But it's like, how does all of this process works? And you get to see in this conversation how it kind of becomes this rolling ball down the hill effect of like, okay, this starts coming together. And then all of a sudden you have an amazing team behind you. So, guys, get your little notepads out today. Get these takeaways. They are golden. And enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and that's something that I want to stress for people is like that it is a lot of work, and you have to really enjoy it, you know, because there is a ton that you have to do. And I think that as, you know, actors and, you know, wanting to produce their own work, they need to know that, yeah, like you have to be ready to really put in the work.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we want to get into you as a content creator too. That was something we're like, oh, she really does push like YouTube or Reels, or like really pushes her content out there.
Yeah.
And you were saying that how you enjoy acting so much, and like, but being an actor, creator, even producing, if you don't like it, like it's all about creating work. The more I've spoken to other industry professionals on how I can better grow as even a producer, but they're like, if you really are like enjoying writing and directing, wanting to do that and not just work for like a company or like just do what's called audition for roles, then you have to just keep creating your own work any way you can. And I was like, oh, okay. That's hard, obviously, when you have life still to manage and bills to pay, but that is what you need to just focus on doing in any way. Like,
yeah, I mean, it has changed my life. Like creating the content and creating work has completely changed my life in ways that auditioning and acting would probably have taken me another 10 to 15 years to get where I am in terms of the meetings that I'm having, the pitch meetings that I'm having, the contacts that I've made, and what's happening in my career is like, it's all due to me putting myself out there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yes. Totally makes sense. Like we felt that
Yeah.
instantly when we're like, we're producers? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And it gives you that extra background and another way to enter the room and credibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's dive into like where did you start in your journey as an actor, and
Sure.
that led you to now producing and getting into those meetings.
Sure.
Yeah, what was that
Yeah.
been like?
Yeah. So I started out kind of like in the commercial world in San Francisco, where I'm from. I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised. And I was, in my early 20s and making really good money. And I was like, okay, well, LA is not that far away. This is what I love. And the market is so small in San Francisco, where it's like you've worked everything possible you could work, and you're now just like working with the same companies over and over.
Yeah.
So I moved down to LA, and again, I just hit the ground running in terms of commercial work, and had great agents in both the commercial and print world. And for a good like 8 years, I just really made a name for myself, and booked like nationals and international campaigns. And it was so fun. Like it was so fun, and I loved being on set. And being
Yeah.
on set really opened my eyes to like, wow, there's so many people that put in so much work behind a project. I want to be involved in this part.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as, especially in commercial acting, where it's like you don't really even have like a script, like maybe you have like 3 lines, but it's like I wanted to be creatively fulfilled. Like my brain was always like, I want to tell my own stories.
Yeah.
So in
Totally.
2017, I, on a whim, entered like this film festival that was put on by the LA Film Festival, in conjunction with Danny Elfman, the composer,
Mm-hmm.
where Danny Elfman lent like 5 of his scores out to filmmakers and said, make a short film around my score.
That's
and
so cool.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
amazing, because as you know, as filmmakers, getting music is one of the most difficult things to do.
Yeah.
Post-production. So yeah, I made a short film. Like the deadline was in like 5 days. I had never done anything like this before. I just like searched Craigslist for like anyone that I could find. Thankfully, a friend actor, just agreed to be in it. And it was going to be judged by Oscar winners like Gus Van Sant, and the winners would be able to screen at the LA Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And so my film ended up winning fan favorite, with over 500,000 views within 10 days of being online.
Wow.
And I got to the LA Film Festival and meet all these Oscar winners and other filmmakers, and screen. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like what? This is my first little thing. And oh my God, I look back on it and I just like cringe at how awful.
We get that.
We all do. Yeah.
They're always like, I want to see it. I'm like, no, you don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And then so that kind of kicked off my filmmaking journey. I became really like obsessed and in love with the whole process, especially writing. And so I wrote another short film that ended up getting picked up by Amazon Prime and Shorts TV and another streaming service.
Were they hosting like a program specific for new writers to pitch, or did you just find a way to connect and pitch it to them?
Yeah, I just submitted my work. To them, and they responded, and they were like, "Yeah, we want your work," and they paid me for it, not very much. And so that's when I realized that if I wanted to make money at this, short films were not the way to go.
Yeah.
Because in a film festival way, because I looked at, like, let's see what this would look like in terms of submitting it to film festivals.
Yeah,
but
that's a great experience.
It's a great experience, but you have to like set aside money. I didn't know that, like for that, because it is cost prohibitive that film festivals cost money.
Yeah. Yep.
To submit, so you definitely need to like make that a part of your budget, which I didn't. And so financially for me, it didn't make sense. So I was like, okay, if I really want to make money at this, I need to make a feature film.
That's what we came to terms with too. We're like, that's like what you kind of have to do.
Like the film, if you want to like do short films to like get your name out there and hopefully hit like the big 5 of like Sundance and TIFF and South by Southwest, that's a fantastic route. But I was like, if I'm going to put my money into this, I might as well invest it into a feature. And so that's when I really started to study the art of like screenwriting. Because I was like kind of self-taught at that point. I, had mentors helping me, thankfully, from working in the industry for so long. I just like knew writers, like I knew writers that were on network TV shows and, had their own Netflix
Hmm.
series. And so they really taught me. I think the best advice that I got was like reading screenplays from films that have been, you know, um, that have been made, and that was like really eye-opening to me on how story was structured and inciting an incident and three
Yeah.
acts and like really studying the craft
Hmm.
because as an actor we audition all the time and we read a lot of scripts and I was like, no, I like want to make a really good script
Yeah.
because if I'm going to use this as my calling card, I want to be taken seriously and I want to at least have my screenplay be in the correct format. So
Right.
I took, like writing my first feature. Here I am 5 years later. So what happened was I'm a huge Reddit fan. So I went on this Reddit subforum called No Sleep, which if you guys have heard of it, have you guys heard of it?
No.
No, what is no
Okay.
sleep? It sounds like our alley though. Like right
Okay.
up there.
What it is
That's why we laughed.
yeah. So what it is that writers write short horror stories under the guise that they are true.
Okay.
Um, but you suspend your disbelief as readers. You know that they're not true. But this story totally gripped me. It's called the Whistler series, and it's actually pretty famous online. Like it has a real cult following. Like this has the subreddit, I think, has 50 million active
Oh my
Wow.
users.
God.
Yeah, and it was voted like top 10 story of all time. And it's a story about a haunted forest where there's a very distinct whistling noise, and there's no creatures, there's no physical being that
Hmm.
whoever goes into this forest tries to find. It's just the noise. So it's very much
Oof.
in the vein of Bird Box.
Yeah.
And playing on, like the psychological aspects of like, is it real or is it only real because other people say it's real? And I was like, this needs to be told on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I reached out to the author. I optioned the story and I turned it into a screenplay. And and I really took my time with it. It has been through so many iterations and so many drafts. And I got coverage on it. Like my first coverage on the blacklist was like a 7.
Okay.
And and I was like, okay, like
That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
this was
That's
like
really good.
first draft, and I was like, okay. So then I started showing it to writer friends and getting feedback and
Kat, I don't mean to interrupt, but for our
yeah,
listeners, this is like something I didn't know about, like the
yeah,
blacklist and how
yeah,
it works. But for our listeners, can you just explain what
sure,
that
sure,
organization does? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So especially for new writers, like it's called getting coverage. That was something that my writer friends were telling me that like as a new writer I needed to do. I didn't really know what it was either. So if you
Yeah.
just Google like coverage for screenplays, it will pop up. But basically, it's like you're paying for someone who's in the industry to read your script and not only like rate it in terms of like how good of a script it is, but how much they would see it as potentially being made.
Hmm.
Like is
Right.
it going to be profitable? Is it, something that audiences would like? Is it something that translates well? Like does it fit into the genre? So it's like marketability, I think, and
Hmm.
also like is your screenplay structured in the right ways? So not only are you getting kind of like feedback in terms of just writing feedback, but also in marketability
Okay.
also.
And
Um,
there's like a score sheet, like,
there
right, that they
is,
kind of
there
do
is.
with
And so
all those categories that you just
totally,
mentioned.
totally. And
Yeah.
like, is your character, are they having like, are they reaching, their changes that they need to change? And like, is it all moving the story forward? Yeah, there's categories. And so the blacklist is pretty industry standard. It's like the one that like agents and producers like know about. And they say that like if your screenplay scores an 8 or above, it's ready for production.
Okay.
And so like it's 8 is like one rewrite away, 9 and 10 is like it needs like it should be made.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to score a 7 on my first draft, I was like, I'm
That's
one
great.
score away
Yeah.
from wow, like this is crazy. And so I took the notes to heart and like really delved into character development, and I'm really proud of the script, and I started shopping it this year, and I just entered a shopping agreement with a huge, I can't say who because I'm under an NDA.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to get made. I already have an
That's
actor attachment.
awesome.
We're looking at directors to attach, and yeah, it's very, very exciting.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Congrats, Kat. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
So,
that doesn't happen often. I just want to say, like, for any listeners that are new to the industry or whatever, like it never happens that quickly. And by quickly, I mean I'm sure it still took a lot of time, but like number of
I can't
drafts
believe
and
it. I
yeah.
cannot believe it because I am in like screenwriting forums and and everything, and people always say like your first script, number one, never gets made. Like I kind of wrote it as like this is my calling card. This is like using it more as like a resume.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
this is the type of writing that I can do, because a lot of people say that you should have 3 scripts ready for potential meetings with managers or agents or production companies. So I did that. I have 3 scripts. This was just one of them.
Mhm.
And so I kind of just, I didn't put too much pressure on myself. Like I just met people. Like relationships to me are like the number one, like that's road to success
Yeah.
for me, is making relationships. And so it just comes down to at the right place at the right time where you talk about the work that you have, and if someone just at that time is like, wow, this is something that I'm looking for, great. Oh, if they're looking for a romantic comedy, well, I have that too. Are they looking for something else? Oh, I have that too.
Yeah.
And so someone was looking for this, and it just so happens that Netflix recently optioned to Reddit No Sleeps.
Mm.
And so it's like super hot in the industry right now. And I knew that, like I follow trends, I read deadlines. So I knew that pitching this at the right time would strike gold, and it did.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's amazing. That is another thing that like people kind of chalk it up to luck a lot of times, but really if you're paying attention to the trends and stuff that are going on and like knowing when the subject of your film is hot, like that's the time.
yeah.
So,
Yes. And I hate to say, like, people are like, well, should I write just for trends? And I don't want people to do that because it's like stifling creativity.
mhm.
But I think there's something to be said about studying trends and saying, hey, this is really trendy right now.
Yeah.
Does it fit in with my voice? Like
Mhm.
would my voice translate, my writing voice translate into like what is kind of like being told in this moment?
Mhm.
And like that's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like because sometimes people write scripts where they're amazing and they're great, but I don't know if they could ever get made because financially maybe it wouldn't make sense, or concept wise it wouldn't make sense. You always have to like keep that in mind too. Like if you want it produced by someone else who's going to pay for it,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
would someone pay for this?
Right.
Because it does come down to money, and it's like if you want to self fund, like go for it, like do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But like, man, once you get into like the real deal industry, like there's a lot of restrictions because everyone has notes, everyone has ideas, and you have to be like adaptable and learn to like that saying of like kill your darling.
Yeah.
Like you have to like be able to let go of things that you love as a writer, but maybe in the production company's mind it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And that's, you have to decide what's most important to you. Like, is this story, this exact story, what you want to tell? Because people
Right.
are going to give you notes and, you have to take them with a grain of salt. If that's what you want to tell, then you have to be prepared to then, okay, well, if they don't like this enough to pay for it, but I want to keep it, okay, how am I going to get this money? Versus like, if you just want to get a film out there or you want to sell this film, like, okay, maybe you can be a lot more flexible with your content and take everybody's notes and make those changes. So yeah, it's kind of
Right.
deciding like what is most important to you.
It is. And for me, it's like a fine balance
Yeah.
because I want to keep my integrity as a writer. Like I'll never do something where it feels like, the integrity of the story is changed and I see something and it's completely different on screen. I never want that. But I also am like, okay, if I need to change, this and that, I really liked that scene.
Yeah.
But okay, it's like finding the balance, I think, is important.
Yeah.
Have you had those moments where you've kind of had to fight for your vision a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm getting better at it. I mean, it's difficult because as a creative, you want it to be how you envision it in your mind,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I also, I'm learning, as a woman and as a Latina, like um in the industry, and being able to like stand up for myself too is something that I'm still like kind of having to learn.
Yeah.
But the more I
Yeah.
do it, it's like a muscle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's some,
Yeah.
it's like finding again the right balance of like learning how to say it, but also like, I don't know, it's like a dance,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I can see the notes and I can understand why, but also sometimes I've had to stay firm and be like, no, like this is what makes sense the most to the story.
Yeah.
But I also, that being said, I haven't gotten into like, once we attach a director, they're going to have their own notes, and I have to be like, I have to like humble myself enough to go like, hey, this is the director. And if they see a vision a certain way,
Mhm.
then, and they feel like that's going to serve the story best, I have to kind of be like, okay, like you have to learn how to like, manage your expectations, and also like learn how to work with people to like make the story the best it can possibly be.
Absolutely. And even at that point, once you're completely happy with the script, you've talked to your director, all of that, like no script is locked until you're done with production because,
Oh my
even on
God.
set it can change.
Completely. And we haven't even gotten into my pilot, and that's totally what's happening right now.
Yeah.
It's so my pilot
Yeah,
is,
let's get into that.
yeah, my pilot is called Elisa's Almost 30, and I wrote the script years ago. I wrote it in like 10-minute segments of like little Instagram blips that I
Mhm.
wanted to like put on social media. And I wrote it because my cousin, who is so amazing, her name was Amber. She came to visit me in like 2016. She lived in Seattle, and she was the most amazing, vibrant, beautiful, outgoing, hilarious girl. And when she came to visit me in LA, like we got into all these insane, crazy antics. Like the first night I went out with her, like we got invited to join a sex cult. I was like, I've been living here for like 5 years and no one has asked me to join a sex cult. Like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
Love
I
it.
And I
love
was like,
it.
I have to
Love
write a
it.
show about this, like the crazy side of LA.
Yeah.
No, for
And
sure. That was
like,
pretty equivalent to my first year here.
oh my God, you got invited too.
I was accidentally invited to a swingers dinner in the Hollywood Hills. Of course.
Right? It's like,
And I
like,
didn't
wow.
know. Like, it was like my friend invited me. I thought it was going to be a nice dinner party. Oh, we're here with a swingers couple. Cool. How do we get out of this
Oh my
hot tub?
God.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, do we stay?
anything.
Do we linger? Do we observe? It's like, it's money right there for like a filmmaker. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
I was like, free material. Exactly. Exactly.
Tessa, I'm seriously digging Jambox. The fam needs to hear about their extensive music and sound effect library.
I agree. Not only do they have a huge library created by Hollywood-level composers, but you can search through it all based on criteria like genre and mood.
Plus, they even have detailed stems you can use to create your own soundtracks from the elements they provide. You can literally be your own composer.
6,000 unique tracks and tens of thousands of stems, plus over 10,000 sound effects. Carolina, that's amazing.
Oh, it gets better. They even gave us a discount code for our listeners. 10% off with Femme10. Connecting filmmakers with ridiculously good music and sound effects. Go and visit jambox.io and start leveling up your sound production.
Exactly. Again, that's code FEMME, F-E-M-M-E 10 at jambox.io.
And so I was like, I have to write, this is so funny. And so I wrote it, for social media. And then, COVID happened. And then tragically in 2017, she actually passed away, and it was really, really difficult for me. It was very
Oh my
traumatic
gosh.
and very awful. And so over quarantine, I like revisited the script as I was kind of like mourning her, and I was like, I want to do this for her,
Mm-hmm.
because like she was so encouraging. She wanted to be in it with me. She was so proud of me. And I was like, I want to do this for her. And so I kind of developed the script a little bit more. And I met my now director, Raquel Gardner. She actually used to be my neighbor. And she is an industry veteran. She is like been acting for like 30 years. She owns the Actors Mark, which is an amazing, amazing acting school. She's an amazing acting teacher. Um, and we really had kind of a heart to heart about the script. And she was like, you need to put your life into this. Like, I told her how, what happened when I turned 30 is that, because I'd been playing with the idea that my main character is like on the brink of turning 30. And
Mm-hmm.
she was, well, what happened to you when you turned 30? And I was like, well, I'm adopted. And so around my 30th birthday, my birth father reached out to me out of the blue, and it
Oh, wow.
really shook my world.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was like, oh my God, like you need to put this in. And I was like, I don't know. Cause up until that point, you write about your life and your
Mm-hmm.
story,
Right.
but to be so specific and to really like put myself into the story in terms of like, no, that's really me and that really happened. And it's not some obscure kind of like,
That's the
symbolic
best
thing.
stuff, though. The more
I
specific
know.
you are,
I
like those are
know.
like the script that we're working on for a feature. Like a lot of those moments are literally what are segments of my life, conversations that Tessa and I've had, conversations with the toxic people in my life, like literally even moments of what is in the script, and like no one would really know. And I'm hoping that's why it's so unique and different in a way
Right.
too, because it's literally those moments in my life that I've experienced.
Right, right. And what I have found, it becomes way more relatable,
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like, you're like, really, would people relate to this weird, obscure
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
moment? And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
yeah, exactly. And so I really kind of had to put my trust in her and go, okay, I'm going to be super vulnerable and really put in exactly what happened to me.
Wow.
And it has completely paid off, because the more I talk about it, people are like, yeah, like, I know so and so who's adopted, or my sister is, or my mom is, or or maybe it's also like, yeah, my parents weren't around and I lived with my grandparents. It's like there's so
Right.
many like iterations of like that type of story that
Mm-hmm.
are very, very relatable.
Yeah.
And so I can't thank her enough for like encouraging me to like really put my heart and soul into it. So we kind of made it into like a real 30-minute pilot, and we were really, really proud with what I wrote. And it's hilarious. Like, if I can toot my own horn, like it is really funny.
Love it.
And it's kind of like a Latina Bridesmaids meets Jane the Virgin meets Emily in Paris. Crazy. Her friends' lives are a mess, and like everyone's life is a mess, but it's really funny and it's really relatable, and it's like everyone's just trying to do their best and figure
Right.
themselves out. On top of Elisa, the main character, like meeting her birth father and like finding her Latin culture, and like she's a super white Latina, because that's me. I was adopted by two white people. So even though I'm Latin American, like I don't speak Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and so, like having to like cross those kind of like cultural barriers too. And so it's a really, really funny story. And we shot it last year, and oh my God, like the cast that we got, unbelievable. Like Salida Ebanks, we have Ryan Carnes and Manon Matthews and Matt McCain, and they're all working actors. And I
Yeah.
mean,
It's amazing.
just like an amazing cast. We got a 5-time Emmy winning DP,
Nice.
and it was a dream come true. Like it was a total dream come true. I did self-fund it. I don't recommend that. It was, oh my God, like that can be a conversation.
Yeah.
But I did it knowing that it would pay off.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Like,
maybe when it comes out, like we can
Yeah.
have another conversation
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
yeah. Let's just say it was money that my husband and I had been saving for a house.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so
Yeah.
it caused a lot of stress.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna It caused a lot of stress, but I kept telling myself that I'm doing this for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say, you were producing very, very smartly by, getting name talent, having
Yeah.
a DP that is,
Right.
Emmy nominated, all of this, so putting your own money into a project that at least you're checking all the boxes of,
Yes.
like a successful film essentially. So, yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, well, name talent will only come on if like the production value is like, is
Right.
financially beneficial. They're not going to come on. I'm sorry to say, if it's like, something that they need to feel like it has
Yeah.
legs, and so I had to like kind of swallow a hard pill and go, look, like I'm going to have to put a lot of money into this, because if I want it to look right and do it justice, it is going to cost a lot. And it did. But I'm really proud of it. I think it looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. And we're already pitching it. And I have some amazing meetings. And again, I can't say with who, but it's really, really exciting. I mean, really exciting. And if I didn't have these names attached, and if it wasn't this high quality, I don't know if I would be getting in these rooms, to be honest. So
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
No, those
Yeah.
are definitely the things that we hear time and time and again, is like quality of production, and having names helps so much.
Oh my God, incredibly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm about to sign with like a major manager, thanks to one of the named talents. It's, his manager, and we just began having a really great working relationship. And I knew that I wanted to hold out for like the best of the best in terms of management and representation. And so like all these things that I've been planning and plotting, it's like they're coming to fruition because I worked really hard and like had a very specific plan.
Yeah.
And I knew that it would take a long time, but I was just like, okay, I've got to just like stick with it, because, it took a long time to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both. Yeah. We get it. And another thing I was gonna ask, with reaching out to name talent, because I'm sure our listeners would be curious, like it's not just sending an email, is it? Like we've had our own experience, but it's usually like a connection that you've made, and like that's probably the best way to come out, is trying to make those connections
for sure,
more genuine. I mean, but yeah,
it's different in terms of like where your project is, because I put the project out on Breakdown Express, like to go to agents.
Okay.
So Breakdown Express goes to agents, and Actors Access is more for like just going to the actors.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Got it.
because I was producing under SAG, I needed to have SAG actors because I myself am SAG, and because I had, a named director already, and we also had the DP attached. Like that was, I think, the starting point, is like having a named director and having someone in your crew that's like, name.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, the people that represent the name actors are going to be like, okay, well, at least, this is serious.
This is a high it has credibility for being a high production. Like they're not wasting their time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially because it's a pilot too. It's like, okay, well
could get bought, and then recurring roles.
Exactly.
More money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was a good negotiating tactic too. And so, so then when their agents started submitting, I was like, holy moly, like, I can't believe these people are submitting,
That's so
and
exciting.
So, yeah, they auditioned, and then, I started talking with the agents and negotiating the rates, and, negotiating if they wanted to come on as executive producer. And, Ryan, we become really good friends. He is co-executive producer of the project, and he's also the male lead. And so it's like all of a sudden, once you get like the ball rolling with like one person, it's like then another person will come on, and then another person will want to come on, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, like I have a project that has amazing people.
Makes sense.
But you do have to have a budget, and you do have to have like credible people already attached. Like it's much more difficult to get people attached when it's just script form. because there's no budget attached yet, like
Right.
actors are going to be like, well, how am I going to get paid?
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that's like, I haven't totally mastered that yet. And so that's why we're trying to attach to my feature a director.
Mhm.
We already have Ryan, he's attached as an actor, so that helps.
Right.
But yeah, it's like forming relationships and like finding just that one person that you can attach that maybe through a friend of a friend. And it's like, if your script is amazing, people are going to want to work with you, because
Yeah.
that was the number one thing that these actors told me, was like, I read your script and I just was like, this is hilarious, I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because
Oh my God. That's such an amazing feeling to have too, to hear
yeah, and
that. Yeah.
it's so weird, and it's not something that I've totally has sunken in yet, that it's like, these are my words.
Right.
Because being a producer, you kind of like have to like step out of yourself and like
Yeah.
work in a different hat, and writer me hasn't fully like come to terms with like, oh my god, those are my words on the screen.
Yeah, it's interesting to always to step into the different positions, and to have to kind of like either hype yourself up or like totally remove your
Just
ego and like
business,
just yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah, because for sure, it's like for my pilot, I was executive producer, I was lead role, I was the writer, and I was also like facilitating every, I was like the AD
Yeah.
too.
Right.
So like there was no time for ego. Like I just
No.
literally didn't have time, because I was so just concerned with how everything was running. And I think that's best, because if your ego gets in the way, oh my god, I couldn't even imagine.
Mhm.
Like if I was like, no, I want to be like lit like this, or if I want, this word needs to stay in, like it would just cause so much strife and time and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And that's kind of like, I know when we get into filming, that's just like, I just want to get the work made and allow for the improvisation of like what's
Yes.
happening to happen, because that's where the magic happens. Like I hear it all the time.
Totally.
Like it's great to have the format and like know what you're doing. Yes, you need that, but then just like letting it roll with it.
Mhm.
Like just letting
Yes.
that, you get the best moments, or like the improv or whatever it is, like the best things come from those moments.
Completely. And also like having the set and the director like on that same page of like
That's a good point.
allowing things to happen, because there are some directors, and rightfully so, that maybe their vision of like, no, it needs to be exactly how it's said. But especially for comedy, I feel like it should be way more open and allow for improvisation, because
Yeah.
like, the best parts were when the actors felt so loose and comfortable and like played with the words, and we got amazing stuff, hilarious stuff.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Just like letting them, and it gives them a chance to bring more of themselves to the role too, and to the characters.
Totally. And it's like, that's when everyone has fun. Like if your set and crew and cast is having fun, like that should be like the number one goal.
Yeah.
Like everyone should be well fed, well hydrated, and having a really good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very much agree.
Yes. All the important things.
And to put this into perspective, like how long basically did this whole project take from like conception to now where you are that it's finished and you're pitching?
So I would say, I mean, I came up with the idea in like 2015, but it was such a different idea. I don't, it was about my cousin and our antics. Like
Mhm.
when I transformed it into Elise's Almost 30 was in 2020, when I met Raquel, and really developed it with her. So I would say
Mhm.
from 2020 to today, and we're not even finished. We're cutting a sizzle, and our editor, who is amazing, his name is Chris Chandler. He's actually the editor on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He had
Nice.
to go
Oh,
to another show called Blind Spotting. And so our pilot is like 90% done, but we still need to do pickup shots And we kind of like made the executive decision because so many people are interested in it right now.
Mhm.
That's why we're cutting a sizzle. And that's
Okay.
what we're using as like our pitch material. And we have like let people know that we're meeting with, hey, we have this like 90% done pilot. And so if you want to see that, that's fine. But we also have come to terms with whoever's going to buy it is going to reshoot the pilot anyways.
Mhm.
So we're like, why spend another 30,000 to like finish it
Yeah.
when we could potentially, I mean, 99% likely that they'll reshoot it anyways. So
that's really important, I think, to understand when you're going through this and making those tough calls.
Yeah.
yes.
That like most of the time it's going to be reshot unless you happen to have all the budget, it's perfect, and you're just packaging and go. But with pilots, it's a little different, like
Yeah,
than
and
a short film to a feature. Like, you know,
totally. That's completely different. Completely different. Because a pilot, even if it's perfect, because ours is beautiful and amazing, shot by amazing people, but it's not even about that. It's about like a network is going to want to use their people and they're going to want to use their look and they're going to want to use the cameras that they always use. So it's kind of like, even if it is perfect, there's still so many other variables that when someone else pays for it, they're going to want a cohesive look for the entire season. They wouldn't want a pilot that looks completely different than the rest of the 9 episodes.
Right. Right.
So, exactly. That would be weird.
Yeah. And so that was really difficult for me. It still is difficult because I'm so proud of this work and I just want to see it finished.
Yeah.
But I also have to like be a business person and be like, okay, what's the best business decision for this? Because I wanted to like submit it to film festivals. I wanted to screen it, and maybe that will still happen. I don't know. But like financially and business wise, it just seems the best decision to, go with a sizzle and
why do I feel like you could submit it? You could should submit it regardless of the pickup shots.
Everyone I've talked to is like, this is amazing. Like, it's so funny. Like there's like 2 little missing parts where there needs to be pickup shots and there's little title cards over it. And it's like, yeah, we get it. We get what's supposed to happen there. And you don't even need to reshoot this. Like, it could just be fine as is. And so my director and I are kind of like perfectionists, And so like, that's something that I think a lot of filmmakers need to come to terms with, of like, and that's still something that I'm learning. It's like, it's probably good as is.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it is. I haven't even seen it, but yes.
And I have a feeling that they're going to want to see it, and I have a feeling they're going to love it, and that maybe will give me validation that it's fine.
Yes.
But it's difficult. It's not something that I've mastered yet, because it's like, I want it to be perfect, but I don't know if it will ever be that.
I think that's really difficult for like content creators, filmmakers, but even like down to the actor. It's like you always want everything to be perfect, but sometimes you really just have to let go of it. And I mean, it's even like, again, I try to relate a lot of things to acting because that's where I started out. I know we have a lot of actors that listen to this podcast too. But it's like getting your headshots, deciding which ones to use. It's like, you can't just use the pretty ones that you think you look perfect in. You got to use the ones that are going to book you. And sometimes it's a weird, quirky one or whatever, so yeah, got to let go of the ego.
Totally. And so this is like my version of like my ultimate headshot.
Yeah.
Like it's like, no, this is great as is. Like, you can show it to the world. Like, it will be amazing. And I'm just like, but it's just a little bit more work. It's like self-taping, self-taping as an actor and then doing like 50 takes, and you're like, because the next one will be the perfect one.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, the first one was probably the best one.
Usually is. No, we feel the same way. That's
something that I haven't mastered, and something we're working on right now. And I wish I had a better answer. And I think that's another reason why, like, producing, maybe it's like when I go into my feature, I don't want to be in charge of this
Mhm.
because I don't want this to happen. It's like, I want someone else to be like, no, like this is like, we're running with it,
Yeah.
you know, taking it out of my hands,
Yeah.
because I don't want to spend 5 years in post of like, well, you know, this shot should be here and this shot should, it's like, you can only rework something so many times.
Yeah. Very true.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we learned that too. It's just, and that's the thing. I think this was your first bigger project. You poured so much of your own money and time and effort that you can't, of course, this first one's going to feel like that. But I think the more you do it too, like you said, you're going to grow and it's going to become easier. Or you have someone else like me. I'll come in and be like, no, we're done. Girl, it's amazing. Shut up.
Exactly. That's what I need, you know, and that's what everyone is telling me. And I'm just like, no.
You gotta, and that's good. You gotta, it's good that your team also feels that way, because that's also like credibility, right? And there's things that you can like listen to. So I'm so excited for you. This, I can't wait to see it. When it comes out, where it comes out, you gotta let us know.
I was gonna say, please keep us updated with this.
Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited. It's so funny. I'm so proud of it. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I have a comedic voice. Like okay.
Yeah, was that surprising?
I mean, my parents have always laughed at my jokes, so maybe I like grew up thinking that I was funnier than I really
no, that's good.
Told me I was like naturally funny, but I didn't really allow a lot of people to see that side of me, because I don't know, I wanted to be like taken seriously as like a serious filmmaker, you know. But, like, in real life I'm pretty like goofy and quirky and dorky and like say really weird funny things, so it has allowed myself to like be way more like nurturing of that side of me and going like, okay, like people can see it and people I think that it's funny, so I want to explore that more for sure. I want to explore that side for sure.
I love that. And I'm so excited for you. Like you've been having so much success so far and, you know, getting where you want to with your projects and stuff. So like you're only going to get more successful. Like, you know, the momentum is there and I'm just so excited to see where it takes you. And for our listeners too, so they can follow your journey. If you want to share any social media links, any of that kind of stuff where they can find you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. My name is Kat Geren, Katgeren. And then follow along on Elisa's Almost 30 Instagram, because that's where we post like behind the scenes and major news coming. So it's just at Elisa's Almost 30, like 30.
Perfect. Well, Kat, this was such an enjoyable conversation. So many great takeaways. I think our listeners are really going to learn a lot. And it was cool to like get into the TV pilot format, because that's something we don't talk about a lot on the show. It's more like features. So that was really awesome to like see and understand that side.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love you guys. I love following along, but I love what you do on Instagram of just promoting, you know, female filmmakers and, you know, females in the industry, because, you know, like we're a team. We all got to support each other.
Agreed.
1000%.
And I want to make that clear too, is like, I have those moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, oh my God, like, can I just like give up and go to an island and never have to like
think about it?
Right.
Think about it. Exactly.
But then I go, no, this is like what I love to do. Like, I'm so close, you know, like don't give up. So like it happens to everyone, imposter syndrome and, you know, like you just have to keep going and like something will happen. Like,
well, and that's what was really inspiring too in this episode, to leave on this note that you like it's clear how much time and work you put in, but it's achievable. Like to do all of that it takes a lot, but then when you're being smart and proactive about it, it does lead you to where you are now with more connections and resources, and to be able to create more, which is all that we ever want to do, is just create more and live in our art. Yeah.
Exactly. You just like, I think that's what like really determines success, is like you just you have to just do it. Like just work so incredibly hard, like all the time.
Yeah.
And it will pay off. It will.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.